introduce our wonderful speaker for today, Sisa. Sisa is the founder of Pop-Up Shop, which is a no-code development agency. She is also the community lead at Software, a no-code building platform. And as an agency owner, a tech educator, she has engaged with numerous entrepreneurs and startups, and she's become an absolute expert when it comes to customer discovery and journey. Sisa, we are so lucky to have you here with us, and I flip the mic over to you.
Thank you, Alina. Thank you so much. I'm curious, how many people do we have in here today?
So we're about 58.
Oh, wow. Also curious what everyone is up to, what you're trying to build, what kind of business ideas or what spaces are you in. That just helps me um, cater the session a bit more to. I'll try to cater to everybody's needs. Although my background is in tech, a lot of what we'll discuss in this session is applicable to any type of problem. These are building blocks for businesses, but they're also great building blocks for creating apps, which is my sphere of expertise. So with that, I'm gonna share my screen if I can find it. Yes. All right. So just again, to reintroduce what I do, I'm the founder of the Pop App Shop. So we provide same day app development at startup friendly rates. We have a 1 day service for us to build it with you or for you to learn how to do it yourself. It only takes 2 days. I can go deeper into that later on, but I'm happy uh, to be here tonight to work with you. And maybe this is you. Maybe you're a brilliant founder and you have a great idea, but you need product design and development talent. You have limited time and money. But if you probably can create a Google form or manage your way around a spreadsheet, you already have the core skills it takes to develop an app. So that's what 2023 has brought us. The internet world of 2023 has gifted us. Now people can become citizen developers. People don't need entire software engineering teams or to empty out their savings just to build what their dream businesses and dream apps are. So I hope I can add a little bit of inspiration for everybody tonight. What you thought would not be possible or would take you years could be this Saturday. And what could change for you, I'm very excited to know as I can continue to work through the session and also later on afterwards. I'm also happy to keep communicating, keep in touch with you guys to help you along with your journey. I love the white space community. I think this has been like my third year or fourth year already working in this community, and I'm very excited. So let's get started. My ads are done. And today we are going to cover how to create customer personas in 2023. I also have a similar workshop, which is how to business model Canvas in 2023. But I know you have already gone through your business model Canvas session. And I will be introducing new tools that may be intimidating at first, but we'll go through this step by step. And if you don't get it immediately, don't worry, just pay attention to the workshop. We'll have Q&A. We'll have time to actually try this yourself. And you can always reach out to me even afterwards. So the first step to this workshop is for me to provide you with the materials that you can use to follow along just as a reference, or you can do it later outside of the workshop or during the time that we will provide. It's not a lot of time, but I just want you to at least try and get the hang of it. Once you've downloaded the file that's in the link in the chat, you will need to go to figma.com I can also provide PDF copies for anyone, but ideally, if you want to follow along, go to figma.com, click import here on the upper right, and then upload that file that you just downloaded into it. And it will open this lovely um, map that I've created for you so you can follow along as well. So you may already have had experience using customer personas, but while there are different kinds, but this is just what we use with our work in this. I'm sorry if I'm making you dizzy, but this is just what we use in our work when we're creating apps with our clients. We really try uh, to optimize the processes because we understand, like this isn't your full time yet, right? Your business is still you're still building your business, and so we want to maximize the time that you have that you're able to dedicate it to building your business. So if everyone can just quickly in the chat say that they're ready, they've got the file, they've got it imported, and if we see that there's a lot of people that are ready to move forward, we'll keep going. I also cannot really see the chat all the time. But while we're doing that, just a few reminders. Let's just get into the mindset of using canvases like this. You already have the experience with the business model canvas. But just to be in the right mindset, I'd like you to avoid a few things, which is overthinking, because when you try to think too much, um, uh, too deep into the section, you end up with analysis paralysis, or you end up knee deep in an answer or in research and not knowing what to do with it, right? So let's not overthink that. And you probably know that you are overthinking if you are stuck on one sticky note and you're writing in paragraphs. The map that I've provided you has basically broken it down into simple questions. So try to be brief and specific while you're going through it. They're literally just notes on a board. It's non-committal, it's free-flowing, it's not an investor sheet, so you can chill out with the answers. And the idea of using sticky notes in the first place is so that you can iterate and learn as you go. So if you're thinking of financial projections at this point, maybe we can calm down. What file should we open?
Yes.
So there, when you have downloaded the file, if you the file from the Google Drive, um, let me paste it again. So if you can download this file, you'll get the jam file. You'll get this customer GPT by the pop app shop .jam. That's the file that you should open in Figma. So you really have to click import here when you've created a Figma account. If you have a Gmail account, it's pretty easy to create the account. And not that. Here, the jam file. Awesome. So let's maybe get a few more people saying ready. Okay. All right. Sometimes I wish webinars had DJs, so we can have keep it going. It's also a 2-hour workshop, so please feel free to grab snacks. If you're one of those people that are already ready, grab snacks, I don't know if it's a good idea to be drinking coffee at this time, but feel free to do that. Just be comfortable and just feel comfortable. And if you have any questions, just turn your mic on and ask me. Okay, so to get started, should we get started?
I think so.
Okay, cool. So now that we're getting started on this, I just want to do a quick refresher. I want you to look back at maybe your business model canvas, or just think to the problem that you decided that you're trying to solve, right? And put that in the first note. And then also remind yourself why you're trying to solve this problem, and answer this personally, like, as why am I the person to solve this problem? Why is this important to me? And have uh, I really I really want to emphasize that, because sometimes if you're too separated from the problem that you're trying to solve, it it becomes very easy to assume you know what's right. And that's where one of the things that we should also try to keep in mind as we're trying to go through the mindset of filling up these canvases is to not have the toxic founder, toxic entrepreneur syndrome, where you're always assuming you know what's best, you're impatient. We always have to check in with our customers and our users. We have to interview them and be open to being told that what you thought you knew was wrong. That's what makes a good entrepreneur, right? Is you're open to learning and finding out that you don't know things and putting in the time to find out what you don't know. Also, skipping steps is a um, big, big hindrance to actually completing the flow and being able to come full circle with the goal that we're trying to achieve here. So, okay. And then speaking of goals, what is a big goal? What is the goal? Not the goal for your user, but for yourself and for your business, right? What are you trying to create here? Are you trying to create multiple income streams? Are you trying to make an app just so you can say that you're in tech? Maybe you don't really. Maybe the solution, you find that the solution doesn't really call for an app. So those are, even if we are an app development agency, we try to remind people that it's not necessarily an app idea. What you thought that what you come in with might not be the solution that you assumed you'll get. So if you open your board, your Figma files, you'll get this. This is the first frame. It's a big map. We'll go through it together. And I've left these notes so you'll be able to understand them even independently. So I'll just go through the empty template first, and then I'll show you how to fill it up. So this section is more about the basic information that you need to define from your customer. You probably already did this in your business model canvas in the first box on the furthest right, the customer section. If the canvas you used to look like this, is this the customer segment? So you can focus on multiple customer segments. But you just have to create a different set for each one. You can have your primary customer, you can have your secondary customer, but of course we want to tailor our solutions for the primary customer first before we even expand into deciding, oh, what about my B2B and what about my B2C um, customers? Let's keep it simple. So you want to give your persona a name to make it more relatable and memorable. You want to capture their basic demographic information, and you don't want it to be a lazy answer. And I'm sure this was uh, covered in your business model canvas session. So if you answer everyone in Toronto between 18 to 35 years old that owns a phone and can purchase tickets, that's still a very wide net, and you won't really be able to capture what each of those, even if you cut this down into uh, smaller age groups, you won't be able to capture what each of those age groups want, because some of those people use TikTok, some don't. Some get the TikToks two weeks before anyone on Instagram Reels would be able to watch. So there's a lot of factors that go into it, and that is why the customer persona is very important for us to be on the same page with our strategies. And also, especially if you're working with your teammates and eventually you're going to have to do marketing, this also helps in that. And I want you to describe that person, but not just a LinkedIn description. You should also consider who they are and what part of the journey they are coming into contact with the problem. So we're trying to narrow in the narrow hone in on the problem space. So if the whole world is a playground and the problem only exists in the sandbox, you don't need to be, talking about all the other rides that they took, right? So you don't, if you're trying to solve a problem in the airport, you don't need to solve what they had for breakfast. You don't need to do that. And defining their personality is also important because it affects as a user experience designer, right? When we make apps, there's a difference between a person that is very analytical and are very type A, and they can probably use an app that has more of a spreadsheet type interface. But if someone is very moves quite fast or isn't very tech savvy, maybe a chatbot might be easier, something that they could talk to and just it will spit the answers back. So that is where this personality comes in. Like, what's their attitude like, especially when they're faced with a problem or a goal? Do they create lists? Do they are they very good at finding coupons? So those are things that you can take into consideration. So here we have, let's focus on the first six boxes, and you'll notice that the first section is more about the customer. You'll find that the second section is more about the problem. And I've added a little brainstorm area about the solution here, about how we can help. And I think that's important because I want you to fill this in without the solution in mind, right? You don't want to think about how your customer is going about their journey with your solution yet. Once you're in there, once you start thinking of the solution, you're not in the customer journey um uh, persona anymore. You're in the user flow, user journey mindset. So that is a totally different journey. So we want to make sure we capture them um while they're still suffering through life without your business solution. So going into the first box, we want to, this is pretty straightforward, right? Like, what are their interests? You want to understand their leisurely activities. What do they enjoy doing in their free time? Are there any interests or hobbies relevant to your product or service, right? So for me, for this example, let's say that I am a mom. My customer is a mom, and I'm trying to move multiple children through an airport throughout multiple flights. Like, that is the challenge I'm having. That is my goal, is to get to my family vacation with all my children and all my stuff intact. So I don't have kids, but assume some of the moms in here can identify with that plight. So if that is what I'm trying to solve, my interest in crocheting probably has nothing to do with this problem, and that is how we try to keep this relevant. Although if you think that there are interests in ways we could communicate, let's say, with them, you could include that. And that is part of the next box, where we look at their influences. We find out where they get information. Where the goal here is to analyze, to find out where they get information, be that Facebook group. Costco mom Facebook groups are very powerful if you've ever been one. And you also want to look at how they make purchasing decisions and determine how they prefer to be contacted. So we're looking at their information sources. I watch my news off TikTok. I don't watch it off TV. So that is very, like, all the news I watch has a commentary to the news, right? So what are the information, what are the different sources, and maybe that's how you'd like to also communicate, having the solutions you have. You can also look at their buying behavior and how they'd like to be communicated with. They prefer in-person communication, or they prefer an app, or do they still prefer reading the newspaper? Those are very important factors for you to design the solution and how you'd get it to them. Buying behavior has its own canvas, and you could look at that. I think it's awareness, decision. I'm forgetting something, but there are like three stages to that. We won't go deep into that today, but I just wanted to share that with you, that within these canvases are other canvases you can find. So you can probably just add canvas, business canvas, to any word. So you could type influences canvas, you'll probably find another type of canvas, or a goal setting canvas. You'll come up, the big hairy goal canvas will come up. So there's a lot of that. And that's because these aren't hard and fast rules. These aren't templates. Like, you can create, you can take what you need and expand on what you decide is the priority. What will what kind of research will give you the highest impact with the lowest effort as well. So that's also one thing to keep in mind as you're building your business, as you're an entrepreneur, is what is the when you're deciding what tasks um to choose from the 100, I'm sure, the very long to-do list that you have, what will give you the most impact with the least effort, and that's probably what you should be doing today, right? So um now, going back to this, of course, we want to determine their goals, and you already probably have covered this in your business model canvas. But I want you to focus on what they're trying to do, when, where, and how, and answer this, remember, without your solution. Again, back to that playground illustration that I mentioned earlier, we're focusing on the sandbox, not the whole playground. What is their goal within that sandbox? Or like what is holding that sandbox together? We also want to take into consideration what their needs and expectations are, right? You want to explore what your persona requires and what they anticipate from a solution. And here it's very easy to go and try to design and think of a solution. Like, my app needs to have a form, my website should have this chatbot, my this needs to have a map, things like that. That isn't the case here. You're not designing it. You don't need to know what the solution is, but you want to try to anticipate what they're going to need, right? So if you have specific needs, for example, back to the problem I'm trying to solve is with moms trying to move their children through an airport and multiple flights. What are the specific needs they have there that you can help them with? What, keeping track of their luggage, making sure they don't lose anything, or keeping track of their children, making sure all the documents are in one place, making sure you arrive, you know how long it's going to take from you to get to the to the carousel, or you're planning your Uber ahead, things like that. So and what are they expecting, right? What kind of ease are they expecting? And what are must-have features or benefits that they are looking for? So if you don't need to say a map, but you can say they need a guide, right? If you think it's a map, sure, but don't get stuck on the map. The point is they need a guide, because the guide might not be a map. The guide might be a person. The guide might be um, um, stickers on the floor. So we have to be open to the wildest ideas and also the simplest solutions. You also want to understand what their motivations are, right? We want to uncover the underlying drivers and motivators that influence their decisions. And you can see some of that already here in the influences, but here you start to distill that. There's also a reason why they're stacked on top of each other. So, what motivates them to actually seek out a solution? What are emotional triggers or personal goals? And how does achieving their goals align with your product or service? Uh, uh, that is their motivation. So, if our goal was to move people through the airport, move their family through the airport without a hitch. My goal is to get to my vacation area. My goal is to just uh, um, have a successful trip. My, then my motivation would be getting there on time. My motivation would be being able to organize everything we need and save as much time as we can, right? And then you also want to look at their pain points and frustrations. And we're going to identify the problems and challenges your persona faces. Basically, whatever stresses them out when they are trying to accomplish the goal, that is what goes into these pain points and frustrations. You can just also drop as many answers here off the top of your head. But also keep in mind, again, what stage in the scenario are they going through this? And just to tickle your fancy, because I know you did so well, you're gonna do so well, and not think of a solution in the first 6 boxes. Here you can start just brainstorming and dropping those ideas that come up while you're filling this out. And so you can start identifying specific, I wouldn't go too specific, but specific ways that your product or service can address your persona's needs and desires, right? So um this is just for you to park it keep track of it, but I don't want you to focus on it yet. So here is basically the first two sections of the customer persona canvas. Do we have any questions so far? And I think maybe we'll give you 5 minutes to maybe, or maybe 3 minutes, maybe 5 minutes is too much. Try to not edit my file. How did he get there? Who is that? uh um don't edit my file. Uh so try it yourself. Try to at least answer one note in the canvas. If you're having trouble with the Figma file right now, that's fine. Just take a piece of paper, scribble down your answers. We'll share the PDF with you after. Or if someone could file export as PDF and share with the group, that would be great. But that is our first section. So let's take a few minutes for people to try it out. And if you have any questions about this first section, this is the perfect time to ask. What would this persona look like if the target is a child aged 3 to 5? Can I mean, can you give me more context on the question? I feel like there is more to it.
Hi, are you able to
Hi.
hear me?
Yes.
Hi, it might be easier if I explain via mic. So my first question I haven't mentioned, but I mentioned it last week, is that if I'm creating a toy for a child, but can also be used as a teaching tool by a parent or a teacher, then
Mhm.
who would my target be? And then the second part of it, if it is a child or if the child is the secondary persona, what would it look like? How do you get into the mind of a child, for example?
Mhm. Okay. Lucky for you, I worked in the tech toy industry for 2 years. I worked on for Spin Master, so we did encounter this a lot. It really is it really comes down to who is buying it. Like the parent does it. The parent does purchase it, but then what for you to consider is what would the parent consider is a successful purchase? Like what reactions are they expecting from their children, right? When they purchase these toys. If you've ever seen those like surprise type of toys where there's like it's like a blind box, or they're trying to like they have these like collectibles. What are observed reactions that would tell the parent that, okay, this is my child is enjoying this toy, and so I would buy this type of toy more. Or if the child has special needs, for example, what are the tasks that the child is having a difficulty with, and then you look at the next level of like, so how is the parent helping their child with that specific task, and what is the challenge that they're having, right? So let's say if the child is nonverbal, um, what is the parent now having to do? I'm having to learn sign language and then teaching with my child. So now how do I how do I make that process of learning sign language more accessible to that parent? Is does that answer your question? Does that help?
Yes, it does. Thank you. So basically focusing more on the parent and what they expect to get from the toy in their child.
Yes. So yeah, the parents' observation of their child's experiences. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. Do we have other questions? Thank you for sharing the PDF, Alina. I was trying to like be stealthy about it when my screen's unblessed. Yes, I see a hand raised.
Hi, thank you so much, first of all. And I wanted to know, my business um, is very unisex, and it's a lip balm business. So, like, just looking at the interest of the person, I'm wondering, like, how do I look at that perspective? Because I see it as like somebody who looks at their health and their wellness,
Mm.
though. I'm just wondering what the broad view of that looks like.
I think this is going a bit into brand positioning. There's a brand positioning canvas too, so you can use that. But I suppose you don't want to make it pink and you don't want to make it blue, basically, right? You want to appeal to them. So what do those people care about, right? They care about that this is made with organic materials, that this is for dry skin. Everybody has dry skin, so you can focus on that vertical of interests and goals. What frustrations would they have? They try different products, but it doesn't, and they've already purchased it, but it doesn't work out for them. So they end up going through 10 things before they find the one, right? So um, that is, you already know. I think you already mentioned it. So I think you're on the right track there. Okay, so maybe we'll take our last question and then we'll go into a deeper Q&A later. But in the chat, we say with Layla,
Layla.
yes. Does persona work for B2C or can apply for B2B as well? Yes, it can be applied to B2B as well. You can either write it as the B2B, the decision maker, who the purchaser is at that company, or you can write it with focusing on the B2B's customers too. So and how you help them reach that customer. So if you're creating an in-between solution, let's say you're offering them a delivery service, that makes sense, right? So yeah. And then if it's a delivery service, you're not just focusing on who ordered, it's also who's delivering and then who's processing the delivery. So that's why I love using infinite whiteboards like this, is so you just copy, paste, and create for every type of user that is involved in your world-changing solution. Okay. And so for the pain points and frustrations, there are different ways to go about it. This is the most basic. So again, we're just laying foundations. But you can also create a customer journey map, and we'll go deeper into that and defining what is more um, what is more what is the priority, what your solution should have first, what is your core MVP, right? So I talked earlier, I talked about chat introducing different tools for to make this process easier. And so I would also invite all of you to join to get a account on ChatGPT. You don't have to get the paid account, just get the 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 regular account is fine. It's free. I hope it doesn't go down because it went down earlier because I was asking it too many questions. I had too many problems for it to solve. But included in your board is already the prompts that you would like, that you can use, right? So I would ask it to generate a customer persona canvas and then I would insert my problem here. So I would change for this with whoever your business is focusing on. The more context you provide it, the more it would affect the response, right? So if you've never used ChatGPT before, the way it works is it's basically a chatbot, but for this specific thing, you can copy and paste what's in the green box with all these sparkles. Sparkles are kind of the universal emoji for AI. So anything that has sparkles moving forward in the presentation and on the internet, there's probably AI involved in it. So you can take that, pop it into ChatGPT, change this part, mom traveling by plane with multiple children. I've specifically included the sections. It could literally work without the rest of the prompts. I could just delete this, but because I've provided a template, I wanted to be on the same page with us, because the way ChatGPT works, takes information from the internet, and because there are many customer persona templates, it might give you other other sections, and you'd be like, what, like, where do I put that, where does that go? And so we just want to be very specific with what we need ChatGPT to do for us. So I'm gonna go ahead, paste that in. If you need some time to sign up to ChatGPT, you can do that now, but I'm just going to talk through this. So as you can see, it's already generating the first section of our basic information section or profile. It is even created a whole name. This person is already given a location. But if I had put generate a customer persona for a mom traveling by plane with multiple children from Toronto to like the Philippines, let's say that's a 21-hour flight, right? So that makes this more specific. So it would probably also consider things like, what are the prices that you have to consider when you're moving, prices and like processes that you have to consider moving from country to country. If I'm flying from country to country, I might have my stuff, my contraband could have gone through easily in one country, but then I would get held back at the next country for my salty fish. So we want to give it as much context as we can. And then, so now that it's generated that for you, it has all the sections, right? And what you can do is basically copy paste that into your template, into the sections there, into each section here. If you have your own copy, feel free to do that. But it's very easy to copy and paste it. You just select it. What I like to do is click this whole thing, copy it, and then it copies the whole response, right? I pasted all the responses here just in case ChatGPT was down, but you can Command V is paste, right? Command C is copy, Command V is paste it in there, and then you can just drag it section by section into the part. So let's say my interests, I drag it into the note and I paste it as there. So you can edit it as you need, as you please, but I know you can also just print out what ChatGPT already said, right? Like, why do I have to do this whole template thing? It's one, it gets very hard to keep track of too much information. That's one of the pitfalls of relying on AI too much. It's like when you create something and then you put it on the presentation and then someone asks you to explain it, you're like, oh, I don't know, I actually didn't source this myself. Or if you find, and ChatGPT isn't always correct, it still needs, if you remember, AI and machine learning, they work in a way that they still actually need human decision making to make to learn what a good decision is or what a good solution is. And so you can't be fully reliant on it. But using AI isn't cheating. But what is lazy entrepreneurship is generating your answers without validating that data. And so we want to use it as a tool to get us better answers and create better business plans and better strategies and define better personas. But we don't want to just leave it there. Also read the responses too. Sometimes it doesn't match, and that just means you have to edit your responses. For example, I can click this edit button here on the right, and then if I said traveling by plane with multiple children, like I mentioned earlier, from Toronto to the Philippines, with multiple luggage and a bicycle and so that really changes what kind of information and problem you're looking at. Right now I have to carry this whole thing. I've seen this at an airport. They had 3 small children below 5, a big dog in a crate, a German Shepherd, and a large screen TV. Where they were going, I do not I do not know, but I wish them the best. So that's just a reminder to always review the responses. So what how you can avoid that is you can also ask, now that that's generated a list of your customer persona canvas for you, it already knows what you're working on. ChatGPT already knows that, okay, we're working on this type of person, their problems, etc. So let's use it to our advantage. We can now ask it for each section, generate a list of questions for customer interviews that will help validate the entries in each section. This is what AI was meant to help you with. It's one, to analyze large sets of data, but two, to save you time from thinking about basic questions that you would ask, and now you have free time to think of what more complex questions you can work with, right? So you can, and what other things you can experiment with. Now you have more time to do the fun part instead of the busy work as well. So and now it's generating questions for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of the questions. I'm going to skip this part. I'm going to go to probably needs and expectations. You don't have to include everything. Like maybe you can send the form beforehand so they fill in um, their basic information. But in my experience as a user experience designer, we really try to prioritize having face-to-face interviews, because sometimes they would say one thing just to get out of the interview, but you can tell that their language is their body language is saying no, that like I don't really mean that. Or sometimes they would say something in passing, but in fact that is what you were looking for, and therefore you can pull on that string and kind of understand, find that eureka moment, right? So I would just take these questions and I would put it in this template. I have a template here for user interviews, and here you can put the name of that the name of the person you're interviewing, and when, and then you can paste the questions in here. So these are, you'll be answering the same, you'll be asking the same standard questions, same for the ones that you want to pull that string on. And then when you can keep note of your answers here, and then add additional notes and observations. There are also other tools there that would allow you to either transcribe. Google Meets, if you're doing this virtually, Google Meets already has a recording and transcribing option, so you can keep the conversation free flowing. You're not wasting their time by trying to type it right during your interview with them, and it's, you can synthesize it further later on. So I would just put all the questions, the user interview questions here, and then take note of the answers here. 5 to 7 people is usually a good amount of research to do. I know it's easy to generate a Google form. You can do that, but then um, you get more quality questions. But you can also gauge, like, is this an interview worth actually asking in person? Or could I do this with a form, right? If I'm just asking what devices they're using, then and how I use them, how long I use it for, then I could do that with a form. So there are some tools that you can use for note taking as well, like Otter.ai. Google Meets already has that, but you'll have to download the videos. What else? Yeah, that's off the top of my head. These are actual tools I use every day. So you have that user interview setup, and just, you can also ask ChatGPT do's and don'ts for user interviews. So basically, in a nutshell, we don't want to lead the users to the answers that we want. We want them, we want clean data. We want real information. Don't ask them if, like, so if I changed it this way, would you buy it? Like, the answer is always yes, because but until they're actually buying for something, that they're purchasing something, putting their card out to purchase something, then it's not a hard yes, right? So don't lead users to the answers you want. Don't get stuck on one method of interviewing and testing. I prefer to actually have a prototype to the interview already, just so there's something to start with. But also, don't fight with your interviewee. Some people do this. It's so weird. They're giving you feedback, they're helping you, they're the expert on the problem because they are the persona that you t- took so much time defining. If they give you an answer that isn't what you expected, just say thank you for your feedback, build a relationship with that user. The success, the satisfaction you'll feel afterwards when you've converted that user, that interviewer that was so resistant, with a proper solution instead of a verbal battle, is more rewarding than your ego at the moment. So allow them to make mistakes, observe how they would go around it. This is for user testing actually, but yeah, you can also get creative. You can host a simulation and see actually what they would do. So if you're trying to solve a grocery store problem, see how they would just shadow them, observe what they do. Don't be creepy, but observe what they would do when they're trying to find a specific product and they can't find it, right? That's why I think it's Home Depot or Canadian Tire, that when you use their app and you pick a product that you're trying to find, it will tell you which aisle, and then a light will blink at the aisle, at the item on the price tag, down that aisle, so it makes it easier. So it's just like simple things like that, right? The app isn't even the core function. It's the blinking light. They could have used like a library system at the door, right? Like, okay, what am I looking for? So don't get stuck is the key here. And that is the second part, for validating um, the questions, the entries in every section, and how to not be a lazy entrepreneur. And also, getting to know your users is the fun part. Some people would do user interviews first and then do their business model canvas and then their customer journey maps. Customer persona maps and customer journeys after the interviews. That would work too, but I prefer I prefer creating the canvas with my best guess assumptions, and then validating that. So I'm not starting from scratch. I'm just modifying now. I'm making things better, instead of um, coming in there clueless. You don't want to be just as clueless when people are spending their lending you their time. So, any questions for user interviews so far, and validating how to validate the entries that you get from ChatGPT? Any questions about ChatGPT? Yes. Catherine?
Yes, thank you, Sisa, for your demonstrating on using ChatGPT. Well, how do we know that information that provided by ChatGPT for your user canvas are real user information? Like, how do I know? Like, if I did ask a question and they provide locations and gender and age group and income, but didn't provide further detailed information like a contact information or like if we're going to provide a survey to ask more details to narrow down or for the question surveys, and do are we be able to get that information from ChatGPT? Does it cause any invalidation, like validate, what do you call those, the privacy?
It definitely does. So I'll answer your question in a few parts. One, are they real? And two, what are things that you can do to make sure that you're getting accurate responses? One, they're not real. They just make like best guess assumptions. Sarah Thompson doesn't exist. But also, they're not allowed to give out real like information. What the questions are for, that's why I included a prompt to generate questions, is so that when you do find real people, when you do find people that you can interview, you can ask them those questions and see if it matches with what ChatGPT generated for you. So that's how you can, that's where the counterbalance in using ChatGPT here. The other way you could use ChatGPT to find those people is to ask it, how where you ask it where you can find these people. So where can I find this specific customer persona in real life, right? And it'll give you suggestions of joining what kind of groups. You can ask it to give examples of groups. Sometimes I'll ask it to create a spreadsheet of groups and the URLs. But then again, sometimes the URLs aren't real, so you just have to check. Sometimes they're real, sometimes they're fake. But you can tell it also to give you real answers. It'll give you as much as it's allowed to. I get pretty far doing it. But then you can also look at, just search prompts, ChatGPT prompts for online. There are so many ways to text that. Prompt engineering is an actual job now, guys. In 2023, it's a job. So just learning how to, I'm teaching you a new income stream right now, learning how to create better prompts. So I hope that helps. There are also a lot of other ways to can go into specific Reddit communities or Facebook groups again. Just pick one channel and then ask the people in that channel where else they can find people like that.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Does anybody else have any questions before we go on a break?
So Leila has a question in the chat. She's asking, do you have a ask Chat GPT? Do you have a reference for the data? And it replies, is that a statement, Leila?
Yes, in reply to Catherine, how we assure that the information is correct. If I think if asked the GDP, do you have any reference? ChatGDP provides some link, and you can read the link.
Yes.
To be confident the information is correct or not.
Oh, all right.
Yes.
Okay.
That
That's
is
cool to
true.
know.
I love that. Thank you for sharing. Also, everybody feel free to share ChatGPT tips. It's and as you're going through this process, you can share it with yeah, are you this is a cohort, right? Like everyone is in the same cohort, or everyone's just here to
No, it's a community program, so it's open to everybody.
Ah, I love that. All right. So this is our new community party. All
Yes.
right. Okay. Do we have any more questions?
I think we're good for now.
All right. So maybe let's take a 5 to 7 minute break before we move into the next part. When we grab a drink, a coffee, a tea. I'm definitely gonna grab a hot drink before we go into customer journey mapping. And I'll give you a little bit more time when we come back, because I would really love for everybody to actually be participating in the next part and actually moving on the board for the next part, so you get a guided understanding of how to do this on your own. The second part is probably the real meat of the workshop. So yeah, let's take that break. 7 minutes. 7 p.m. Also, thank you for still being here if you've been here from the very beginning of the session. Very glad that you're really hanging out with us and taking advantage of this wonderful workshop that the Wise Space community provides. All right. Okay. So just a bit of examples here of what customer journey maps usually look like. If you Google them, they're kind of complicated and multi-layered, and it depends on what you're creating a customer journey map for. Are you trying to create, here are the sections I mentioned earlier: awareness, consideration, conversion, and then loyalty and advocacy. Are you trying to get past the point of acquisition? Are you trying to define, I don't even know what these big waves mean. I guess that's like the pain, right? And how much pain they're feeling. And some are very illustrative, and some are quite simple, but it's still very overwhelming, because there are a lot of things that you need to consider going into your journey. So what we will do is go through our customer journey map, and follow step by step. If anyone has any last minute questions about how to go in Figma, put it in the chat. But if you can actually try and work on this one, that would be great. So what I've done here is make it so simple that you don't feel like you're filling up a big table of things and are not sure and get overwhelmed with trying to capture that whole journey, right? So when you're filling up your customer journey map, uh, think of the scenario where your customer decides on their goal and when they begin to encounter the challenges. So again, back to the playground. We're not, if our problem is in the airport, we start maybe by when they're buying the ticket. We don't have to think of like, oh, she cooked eggs before she bought the ticket, right? That's not relevant. So again, do this without your solution in mind. We are trying to capture the pain points here, so don't save them yet, right? Leave the solutions in that box that we had earlier, and then fill this up as brief and specific as you can. So there are two kinds of journey maps that you might encounter. One is the customer journey map, and you might encounter the user journey map. It sounds so similar. It sounds like it could be interchangeable, but it's not. So customer journey mapping is, again, without your solution, and user journey, so they're already using your solution, right? So that means there's already a solution there. It can be a user journey or a user flow, is what it's called. So they are very similar. If we have time and if anyone cares later, I could show you what that looks like, but if not, if you don't think you need that right now, if I'm not sure if this is in public whitespace videos, but if you have access to the whitespace database, you can check any of my recordings from the past 3 years. You'll find what a user journey is. If you're building tech, I talk about how that changes into a technical, how you can change that into a technical scope, or even if you're just making a website, how you can change that into a technical scope and pick the right tools that you need. Okay, so, but focusing on customer journey mapping, there are steps that I would like you to follow. And can I just get like a quick show of hands or a quick mic on, of who's actually following through, because I want to know if I should give you a minute or two to fill it in before I move on. Thumbs up, or I'm doing it in the chat, or just a mic. I can see some people are on their phones, so probably won't be following. I'm just trying to get the gauge of timing here. Following along, but just taking notes. I have a hand raised. Yes. Is that a question, or are you following along? Yeah, you're following along. Okay. All right. So, all right, let's do this. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. I hope you do try it. So, and even if you're just scribbling on notes, that is also fine. That's also fine, as long as you really try to get the mindset in here. So, here we want to think of the scenario again where we start, right? Step one, what is the first step that your customer will usually take towards their goal? So if I'm planning a trip, I will probably look at the flight tickets, the itinerary. So right now, take some time, take a few seconds to put what is the first step that your customer will usually take when they're trying to achieve this, or what task they're trying to complete, or when they think of the task, right? If I notice that if I'm trying to find like a solution that will help me manage my finances, I usually think about my finances when I realize I skipped a bill and the bank starts calling me, right? So that could be a good step one. Or if I find that I need to do the groceries because my fridge is empty, that's step one. If you have any questions on how to phrase, or if you're not sure what it is, that's fine. You can turn your mic on and ask me anytime. But what's important here is you don't overthink, right? If you're struggling to write it, that's probably not the first step. Kind of move a few steps back and forward to see the right one. And then your second step would be to define what the end is. So you're not thinking for what the journey is for days, right? Think of what the usual outcome is that your customer experiences after attempting to achieve their goal. They may have accomplished their goal. They may have made the trip, but then they may have lost a bunch of luggage. They might have had to get held back at a different airport and miss their next flight. And remember, this is without your solution in place, right? Maybe the outcome is they did get to do their groceries, but then they spent way more than they expected to spend, or they did successfully apply to have their documents renewed, but they forgot that, but they had to do it 2 times, 3 times. They had to go back to that place to submit the documents because they did something wrong or forgot something, and then the wait times are escalated. So focus on that, step 1 and step 2. And then step 3 is, what is the primary obstacle, right? I know there's going to be a lot of obstacles, but what do you think? Your best guess, assume what is the biggest stress from the pain points that you've already jotted down earlier in your customer persona canvas. What is the most prominent you think is the primary obstacle here? Don't answer like the obstacle is because she has a lot of children. That's that's not the route we want to go. The primary obstacle is probably transport, finding transportation or keeping track of things. So with like our specific example of the airport mom, Sarah Thompson, the airport mom. So yeah, let's focus on that. Maybe I'll give a minute for people to fill in these 3 crucial notes, the big stages. And this can change. Don't worry. You can adjust this. It's okay. Just need a place to start. If you have any questions, just hop on the mic. Actually, there's music here. I don't know if you'd hear it. My time to experiment. Can we hear this music?
No. Can you hear it?
I can hear it because I'm wearing headphones. So, oh well, at least we have a timer. Some people also don't like music. I've had like a workshop participant be super angry, be like, I can't think. Share the voice. Would you like me to sing? Oh, is that what you mean? Okay, we have 15. No, we have 15 seconds. All right. No worries. I would have sung. Okay, so assuming that you've gone through this, I guess if you're watching this from the recording, at least you can do it. Just play this part along and follow along as well. Question from the section before: how do I get interviewees for a B2B logistic business? You can put this exact question in ChatGPT and tell what ChatGPT your business is, and it'll actually generate sources for you and how you could reach them. It could even generate templates for you of what email to send the people that you're trying to reach, and even a strategy for you to do that. So that's how you can, yeah. All right. At the end of the day, you can also do old school outreach. Go to Board of Trade websites. I'm on the Markham Board of Trade. I'm one of the directors there, and I get calls all the time of people trying to sell me stuff. So that's a very helpful resource for people trying to generate leads. Okay, so now that we have your first step, your last step, and your primary obstacle, I want you to look at these activity notes in the middle, these orange notes. If you want to create more notes, you can do it the long way, which is click sticky note here on the bottom or press S on your keyboard and then pick a color, and then it'll stick the sticky note out. Or you can hold Alt or Option on your keyboard and drag it, and it'll make a new note. That's usually the fastest way. So I want you, usually I give 7 minutes to do this, but just so it's 7:16 in the essence of, for to keep us on time and to give more time for everybody to answer, I'll just give you 1 minute. Just randomly drop the activity: purchasing a ticket, um uh getting to checking in my luggage, just that. And it doesn't even have to be in order, right? Finding the carousel, things like that, just that fast. As many as you like, uh as many as you like. And then or you can't hear me, or you can't hear the music. There's no music. As long as you can hear me, that is all you need. And then we move, then we just drop as many as you can that you think is relevant within the scope of step 1 and step 2. That's all you need to do. Don't think about the order, just drop everything. This is where we avoid overthinking, and we do that. So I'll give you, the people following along, give you 1 minute to try, just to try. Even if it sounds similar to each other, if you think you've already put that note down, but you think but it's still coming up, just write it again. Write it, whatever that version is, so it unblocks the next one, the train of thought for you. She can't hear me. Can anybody, but everybody else can hear me? Okay. I'm sorry. Thank you. Thank you for validating my my audio. Okay. All right. So that minute is up. You can continue to add more. Why we use timers is so that you're really, one, forced to not overthink, and two, it avoids scope creep, this thing that we use. It's a term in the tech world where we want all the features that we could ever put on an app, but it's not really necessary because it doesn't solve the immediate problem. It just sounds cool, and that's why we want to push it in, but it's not really important, right? So if you can do this for 7 minutes, and if you need another round, sure. This is also really great if you have teammates and you've noticed that you're also just arguing all the time now about what should go in and not. This is a great way to keep things cool and make it very uh, equitable for everybody to get their thoughts in. So if you've put in as many as you can, take a quick sec to group things that are similar. Maybe the grouping would be at things that are at the airport. So checking in my luggage, finding the carousel, and then you can start organizing it chronologically. When does it happen, right? Creating a schedule. Ticket, creating a schedule, checking everyone in, things like that. Okay, this isn't very comprehensive, but I hope you get the idea. So let's say I check in my luggage and I check everyone in. That's probably the same stage, and that stage is called checking in. So that you can group all those together. And let's pretend I have stuff here. Actually, I don't have to pretend because I can ask ChatGPT with this handy prompt on the side to generate me a customer journey map for this mom traveling by plane with multiple children, and identify and ask it to also identify the pain points and gain points, right? So that is the next step we're going into. No, that's actually a step after. I'm just going to move this over to the side. But remember, without your solution in place, again, we are just thinking of what their life is before they had you, right? Um, so let me move this to the side. And once I feel like that's in order, I'm now going to look at what they are thinking, feeling, and doing at every stage. This is called empathy mapping. It's also a separate canvas on its own. There are more complicated ones, but we've simplified it here because who has the time? Who has the time for that? That's why AI was invented. So we want to establish a sense of being in their shoes, right? We hear people say that all the time. Put yourself in your user's shoes. But until you do your customer interviews, you really won't understand that. And when you get answers from your interviews, this is also a good place to keep note of what they're thinking, feeling, and doing. So, what do answers for that look like? Creating a schedule. I'm thinking, how much time do I have? So we're thinking quantifiable things, right? Or more tangible things. How much time do I have? Where do I need to go? Who who needs who needs what things? Like if one of if your kids have if you're still breastfeeding, I feel so bad for if you're still breastfeeding and then you also have kids that also need other things and you're doing this all by myself and you all by yourself and you want to um, make sure you have all those things. What what are those things that your customer is thinking when they're creating a schedule? When they're purchasing a ticket, what are they thinking? They're thinking, what are the best times, best what are the best rates I can get? How much will an additional bag cost me? Additional baggage cost, etc. So you can see how that varies from stage to stage. Now that you've grouped these activities, now they're stages, right? So what happens on during those stages is what goes into thinking, feeling, and doing. What do I feel? What is your customer feeling when they're creating a schedule, right? I'm feeling overwhelmed, or I feel very pressured to get there on time, not lose worried, feeling worried that I will lose a person or a thing, something like that. So that's where feelings go, and this is where you start noting what their stressors are, right? If you notice in the customer uh, persona canvas, we have a section there for pain points and what stresses them out, but this can also be good feelings too, right? We have a motivation section in the customer persona canvas. So I'm excited to meet my family in Miami, something like that, and go on this vacation. So it's good feelings and bad feelings. Sometimes the good feelings are what will really help you brand position your business as well. If you watch all the ads, this is how they do it. And then doing, what are they doing in this stage of your customer journey, right? I'm probably if my customer is a type A, very it takes initiative, very organized, as we define in the customer persona canvas. I am probably creating a spreadsheet or um, writing 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 a plan. I'm making checklists. Uh, yeah, so that's creating a schedule, planning, itinerary. Here, if we look at the next column, purchasing a ticket, what am I feeling? I'm feeling like shocked at the prices, um, and overwhelmed again, overwhelmed at uh, let's say the multiple choices and steps there is to do this with for many people, right? You have to book the flight, make sure you're all sitting in the same seat, things like that. So what are you doing? You're looking through, I don't know if you can hear my neighbor's dog, or looking through the flight options. We are look what else are we doing? We are selecting seats. We are weighing out weighing prices against each other. So that's where thinking, feeling, and doing comes in. So now you're starting to get a sense of um, what that person is going through, what they're thinking. You can also, this is also great if you're trying to do therapy on yourself, and you're in a very emotional state and you're just trying to understand why you're going through things. It's design thinking for feelings. You can do that too. Um, and understand yourself a little bit more. Some might call it shadow work, some call it journaling. This is great too. I also do this. I'm guilty. So do that across the board, and then you can and then you'll have a pretty good um, understanding of what your customer is going through. Do we have any questions on thinking, feeling, and doing, and even the stages?
No questions in the chat also.
Okay, great. I hope it's because people are trying the canvas. And that's fine. Just listen along, keep doing what you're doing. So the next step now, step six is to define what the biggest pain point is. So you'll have all these, let's say you fill this up down to the end. Oh, don't forget the big part. Yes, you filled it up down to the event. And you thought that this was their primary obstacle, right? What you did in step 3, you thought that was the biggest pain that they were experiencing. But now that you can see what they're thinking, feeling, and doing, you realize it might actually be something else might be giving them a bigger stress. So if that's the stress that you can solve for them, that is that is probably going to be your moneymaker, right? It's not what you thought it was. If you can solve this problem for them that you originally thought, then okay, like you helped them, you gave them a boost. But if you find that there is a bigger stressor, it probably makes more sense to try to solve that problem. So even if you're already in your business model canvas, you're very attached um, to the solution that you want. You really, really want to build an app, but apparently the solution is just stickers on the floor. You have to be ready to let go and adjust, or uh, be also open to finding out that maybe the whole business model is not the model, is not going to be viable. But the good thing about doing this is that you found out before you spent the rest of your money on building this, and your time and your emotions on building this business, right? So this is great, especially to help you defining your MVP. And if you're working with other teammates, or if you have business partners and you're doing this on the board or on paper, you can get these actual round stickers, or just use a marker or whatever. Anyone can get 3 votes or however many, and they can put a vote on what they think is the biggest pain point here. It doesn't have to be all in feeling or doing. So let's pretend there are other people here and they voted that this is the biggest pain point. This is what you should try to solve. Again, your MVP, your core features, should have of your solution should have this. This is the first thing that you have to build and design a solution around. So yes. Yes, that's it. The end. That is your North Star ish, for the, if so to speak, of designing your MVP. So if we don't have any questions there, I'm just going to move forward because I can see the clock. There are also gain points. You can think of a gain point for each one, right? I'll just bring this up here. It's just make it see so you can show it. You can think of a gain point for each one, but if you're trying to save time, or if you're really just trying to focus on the MVP, then I would just think of gain points for the things that have votes on them. So for example, um, I'm if I'm overwhelmed at the multiple choices and steps, how can I solve that? That's a gain point. How can I solve it? Either I make the process easier, make the process of comparison easier, um, show just show only the best for their situation. Honestly, if there isn't already an app, there is already an app that will probably show the best flights for you and what you're thinking. I could also just copy all the options I have, put it in ChatGPT. I could also ask ChatGPT to create me an itinerary. So many things, and do that. So, what are things that can be solved here? I feel pressured to get there on time. How can this be solved? Um, a gain point could be I've been seeing these Uber ads on TikTok that you schedule your trips ahead, so you don't have to worry about that day. Suddenly there's a surge and there are only 3 drivers on the road. Those are those are gain points as well. So this starts to build up the solution, like the solution. You can refer to that box that we had earlier over here of how we can help. If you feel like you're running out of ideas, you can always go back to the previous step and remind yourself why you're here and what you're doing this for. And of course, in good old AI education fashion, I've included the prompts there down to thinking, feeling, and doing at each stage. I would recommend that you also do an interview to validate this. If you build it, you can either do your persona canvas, conduct a user interview, and synthesize that interview into this journey. But then you should also do an interview, maybe just to validate that the pain points are here. Or if you're able to multiply yourself and get enough interviews, enough people, let's say you got out of 15 out of all 20 people that you interviewed totally agreed that that is a pain point. Like maybe you don't have to go too deep into it. So you can also ask ChatGPT that based on the pain and gain points, brainstorm holistic solutions for the problem, right? So, and I want to say holistic so that you're not it doesn't go too specific that it forgets the rest of the canvas, um, and that it gives you proper kind of just it gives you a good lead. So that would look like, let's see. There. So it says, okay, that maybe you can do a family assistance program. Maybe you can enhance children's entertainment. So there are different. It's great for helping you brainstorm, but also keep in mind what your strengths are. Right? If you happen to be a founder and you have an ECE background, then this makes sense. Enhance children entertainment or education. And I know that's not what ECE means, but like that's what yes, that's a strength you have. Or if you um um you also have to really review the responses. Like you have your bicycle transportation solution. Maybe the bicycle isn't the problem, right? I just remembered earlier that we added bicycle into this. So we can if this is also review if this is in line with what services you can actually offer. If I'm a web designer and I'm trying to create a solution via a website, I'm probably not going to be the one doing the cultural engagement program, but I will make my website make this more accessible, a cultural engagement program more accessible to those users. And then here we have, what is the lowest effort, highest impact solution that should be at the core of my product or service? So out of all the things that it listed, what should be the easiest thing for me to build that will cost me the least time and least resources, but will give me the highest impact, right? So that's something you can also ask ChatGPT, but you should also use this, decide this for yourself. But now you have a lot more data to make a informed decision than you would have without ChatGPT. So
Can I
yes,
see the yellow box in the last row? I want to know what did you write. Is how can to be solved? Make the
yes,
process of comparison easier. Show only the best of the. And I see the other one. How can this solve? Schedule your trip. Thank you so much.
no worries. Just keep in mind, I also just dragged and copy pasted everything. But if you put this prompt in the chat GPT, it will give you suggestions, very, very good suggestions for how you can fill this in. And then you can just tweak it to what you think is accurate and appropriate for your solution. 7:37. Maybe we can just spend the rest of the time for people to try it out by themselves. And for any more questions, I'm happy to stick around until the end of the session. But what's usually next after this is you now create a user journey with your solution. So now we flip, right? In tech, well, that looks like is more, what is the first step that need you need users or customers to do on your app or in the store, and then what do they leave with at the end of the journey? So you can see it's still kind of the same process, first and last, what happens in between. And I sort that out, and I remove the things that don't seem relevant or are not part of my low effort high impact um, context. So but then it's with your solution already, and then you can go into prototyping and building an MVP. I'm not sure if that is part of the series that we have, but if it's not, let them know. I'll come back.
Now, the series are not industry specific, so
Yes.
it's open, it's agnostic, it's open to.
Mhm.
So we have people who are interested in the tech industry. Some are service, some are just looking to learn more about entrepreneurs. It's pretty generic.
Yes, that's awesome. Can we get a copy or links of the presentation and the recording? We shared it earlier on, but we can repaste it again. I'm sure Alina will reach out to you at the end. She does have your contact information. Yeah, so the next is usually creating a user journey. You want to build a prototype, or you're building an MVP. And prototyping isn't just for tech solutions. We prototyped, we were designing solutions for a bank once, and so it wasn't about the tech, it was about the bank experience, and we simulated with cardboard and like boxes what that bank uh, would be like if it was more accessible for people that can't read, for example. How would they be able to have access to banking? How could we prototype that? Even if you're just trying to do a website, even if you're just trying to do social media posts, you can prototype that as well. If you're doing a subscription box, what does that box look like? All my examples are boxes. I'm trying to think of other other examples. Um, Maybe if you're trying to create a simulation of what it would be like to go through that airport process. Of course, it's very expensive to buy someone a ticket and all that, but maybe you can put them under like a time pressure test. And that's user testing is also available not just for not just for what do you call this? Not just for physical products. It's also for I forgot the point here. User testing isn't just for tech. You can user test with any kind of customer. That's what I'm trying to say. All right. So we'll just have the rest of the time for Q&A or working on your boards. And if ever you need an app built, we are available again at popappshop.io. That's our website. You can also book calls with me there, even if you're not trying to book an app, or even if you just have a question, you can go ahead and book a call. And basically, you're able to create your app live at the end of the day at a tenth, sometimes a fifth to a tenth of the cost of traditional development. So this makes it really accessible. Also, in this time, it's hard to not be part of the whole digital transformation. At this point, digital transformation as a buzzword is already on its way out. So it's a great time to catch up. There is a PDF of the map. You just have to go to, yes, there.
Sina has an
Yeah.
interesting question for you.
Yes, I am open to mentorship. If you want to reach out to me, please add me on LinkedIn, linkedin.com/ here, let me type it in the chat. My name has many doubles in it. It's SISALLESES. So if it looks wrong, it's probably right. And oh, thank you. We could also organize like a little group session too, if that's something you'd be interested in. But yes, reach out to me on LinkedIn. Or actually, let me just drop my Calendly link already. Let me just skip that whole part for you. Oh, yes. If you have any questions about no code and app development, you can also ask me right now if you're not trying to follow along. App development for Android and iOS devices. So our agency, we specialize in web apps, but there are no code ways to build native apps for specific OSs operating systems. There's a whole ecosystem of no-code tools that will allow you to do that or allow agencies to do that. Just for me, for earlier stage businesses and startups, I do recommend going the web app route, so you're not spending so much time getting your app in the app store and paying all those fees and doing the development without having product market fit. So this is where the value of building something fast and affordable, it's not cheap, but it's affordable, to so that you find your product market fit before you invest in a whole team of developers. You can take the product that you've built and take it to your user interviews, even, right? User interviews, you can, and it's not a test product, it's not a prototype. The apps we build are direct to, they go live. You can, if we built it today, you can give it to your customers tomorrow. And I've had students that made 200 sales in the same week that they built their book review app. Who knew? So there's a lot of opportunity in this space. I believe I have no code workshops at Whitespace as well, so you can look at their programs in maybe their previous videos, or you can join the next cohorts where I go deeper into no code space.
Yeah, and just on that note, our applications are actually open for the Venture Catalyst program, which CISA is part of, where we take you from ideation and validate your idea to an MVP stage. So if you are in looking to make an app, or you're in the tech industry, look that up. It's Venture Catalyst. I'll drop a link in the chat as well. Sisa, I do have a question, and this is something that we often get asked by our early stage founders, which is when they're doing their customer interviews, what is the best approach when they're sending out those cold emails or doing cold calls to secure an interview? Do you have some tips and strategies to around that?
Okay. Yes. One, it's really great if you can incentivize your users. If you even have signed up for any kind of like online subscription, either they're like, oh, give us 5 stars and you'll get this $25 gift card, right? You may not be at the phase of like giving free stuff, but maybe you can offer like something that isn't money. Um, you can also, some people are really also just, you'll be surprised at how many people are willing to just help you build what you're building. So if you go on Twitter, especially like in the no code like community on Twitter, there's uh, a movement. It's called building in public, right? So you have all these startup founders that are just sharing where they are, what they're building, and asking for help. And you'll find that people are actually very willing to give tips and share their experiences. So you could create a landing page as well. Oh, this is my favorite. Is if as an experiment, you create a landing page. Easy, so many no code landing pages out there. Uh, that uh, some of them are AI too, so it makes it easier for you if you don't have web experience. Um, and just pretend that you have the product already. It doesn't have to be the name of the product. You can just call it whatever. If you've read any Tim Ferriss book, like 4 Hour Work Week, and this is also how drop shipping works, I guess. They create the fake product or the fake brand, and see, or have a wait list if it's a service, and see how many people would actually sign up for the wait list, right? You put your problem, um, your how your solution will work, and then you put an email capture field in there, and then the people that reach out, you share that to the different Facebook groups or Reddit or Slack channels, wherever you can find people, and then you can reach out to them from that, right? So that also gives you a metric to show when you're doing pitches. Like, I posted this on like last Friday and I got 64 signups, so that would be very high quality leads for you for your interviews. I have a hand raised and I have a question in the chat. We'll start with a question in the chat first. So, are there a list of products one can build with no code? You can clone any app, any popular app that you've been using that you see. You can build it with no code. What's great about no code is it's like Lego, so it's like building blocks. You can um, take pieces, put them together, uh, and it's because most apps are similar already. You don't really have to create everything piece by piece. It's the user experience is already like encased in those um, blocks. You can look at, plug, of course, software.io is the company I work for. And you can look at the kind of solutions and templates that are available there. So you can have you can build different kinds of apps that are not just for the web, they're also mobile ready. You can integrate them with different platforms. So if you are, let's say, creating a CRM, let's say here, custom CRM, right? Um, if you're wanting to, oh, there are actually product ones. Anyway, I'm spiral. I'm going on a tangent. You can integrate it with a way to send emails to your leads already. So when you start scaling up, everything is automated. You're just, okay, like this is a lead. It will send out to them. There are so many out there. Just yes, check it out. Um, so it's softer without the R. Yeah. So there are a lot of examples there, but some no code tools would even like let you clone Airbnb or LinkedIn, Wikipedia, all of that stuff. And Timo, hi Timo.
Hey, Cisa, how are you?
I'm good. How are
Um,
you?
I'm good, thank you. First of all, thank you so much for sharing, your insights with us. I really appreciate it, and I'm sure everybody does as well. I've attended a couple of your presentations, and I always walk away with so much knowledge. So thank you so much.
Appreciate that.
But yeah, so I've had the privilege of talking to you before. So you dropped your Calendly link here. I would say to people, like, if you want to talk to Cisa, she's amazing. I talked to her just recently. But what I wanted to say is I actually have a question about the alpha testing. When you get to the point where you're now ready to maybe just go to that stage, because I was part of the venture catalyst program over a year ago, so I've done a lot of the discovery stages stuff and researches and stuff. So now I'm kind of like looking to get the app built. I shared that with you recently. So what I want to know is, if I want to now get into the alpha testing of the app, and before it goes live, maybe just have like a group of people that are going to be testing this app before we start marketing it. What's the best way to do it if you don't have like a bunch of people, a bunch of friends? Just to be specific, like my app is a dating app. Most of my friends are they're in relationships, so I can't go to my friend and say, hey, join the dating app, right? So what can I do, or where can I go? Or do you have any suggestions there?
My first suggestion would be to not ask your friends, because your friends will tell you what you want to hear, because they want to be
True, true.
supportive of your idea, right? I had this similar situation before, where I also built a dating app with no code, and the way I got users is to look back at my business model canvas and my customer persona canvas. Where are they hanging out, right? What channels are they using? Where are they encountering the problems? And obviously the problem is in the dating apps. So what I did was, in my profiles, I actually, of course I put my picture, because I'm like, let me catch you with my smile. But then in my description,
You
I
have
also
a
put, I'm
snoozing
actually,
going on. Do you want me to cancel it?
Sorry, I think somebody else got
oh,
unmuted.
oh,
Carry
yeah.
on, Cisa.
Okay, thank you. I put my profile, and I actually put this in my profile. Like, for example, Bumble has 3 sections, right? There's Bumble Dating, Bumble BFF, and Bumble Business. I didn't put it in the dating side. I put it in the BFF side because they are already there. There are users that are there. There were women that were going through the same things that I was experiencing on dating apps. So I thought it would be the best to advertise it there, right? So really go to where they're hanging out. Twitter is a pretty good lead, and then, like I suggested earlier to one of the other users, is to also ask ChatGPT where I can reach them. It's actually pretty useful. It, like, helps you get pretty far with a starting point. Yeah, so
Right.
be where they are. Even when you're already selling, try to be where they are.
Thank you, Cisa.
Yes.
Perfect. So we have 5 minutes left. So if there are any last minute burning questions, ask away. Fatma from Markham Small Business Center has also dropped in a message in the chat regarding information about Markham Small Business Center and the various grants that are available. So do check that out as well.
I just had a question.
Yes.
Yeah.
Say if you wanted to create an app that you can like scan products at the grocery store to check their ingredients, how would you go about configuring something like that?
So when you work with no code tools, there are one, of course, you have to talk to the hardest part here is getting the grocery stores to actually put the sticker up, like, believe it or not. The easy part is building the app, because once you sign into an app builder, a lot of them would just have that feature like QR code scanner or signature, right? They're like, and you just sign things on your phone. There are that features like that. So really, if this is your chance to spiral and go into a rabbit hole of no code and find out all the things that you can do.
Okay, thank you.
No worries.
This chat actually inspired that idea, so thank you.
Awesome.
Oh, there you go. Amazing. All right, so I do want to be respectful of everybody's time. I think we can wrap up here. Sisa, thank you so much for such an incredible workshop. This was so much fun. I loved how you made it super interactive. It was extremely, extremely valuable. Thank you for going over all these various maps and just providing all your insights and resources. I'm sure everybody in this room found it extremely, extremely beneficial. Lots